All right, and welcome to our first episode of the All About PA podcast, where we talk about anything and everything Pennsylvania. I'm Chandler.
And I'm Reinys, and this is all about PA.
So, today, to kick off our first episode, we're going to start with our first segment that we're calling One in 2560, a time to introduce one of the many special towns you've probably never heard of in Pennsylvania. And today, we're actually going to start off with the places that raised us. So, I'll go first. My name is Chandler. I was born and raised in Lancaster County, which is most famous for its Amish population. But what it's less famous for is it was actually the US capital for one day back during the American Revolution. On September
Iconic.
27th, 1777, after the US Congress fled Philadelphia, they made Lancaster the capital for one single day. So I always thought that that was really cool growing up. I love DC, but having been able to live in both capitals, it was awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I like that take. I've lived in both capitals.
It's
That's really cool.
it's so neat to see how like my just kind of random city was, at one point the capital of the entire country. It's like crazy to think about. But yeah, very neat. Lancaster has a ton of just great history to it. I mean, we have the Central Market in Lancaster, which is actually the oldest farmers market in America. There's a few farmers markets that claim to be the oldest. I'm not saying I'm the authority on it, but I'm gonna trust my hometown's word on
I
that
believe
one.
it. I
Yeah,
believe it. I believe it. I'll
thank
give that
you.
to you.
Thank you. We also have the oldest working theater in the United States, the Fulton Theater, where I unfortunately never actually got to see a show, but growing up when I was doing theater in high school, I had friends who did perform at the Fulton Theater, which was very, very cool.
That's
Um,
cool.
yeah, it was awesome. I still need to make sure I get over there at one point. But never got the chance, unfortunately.
I
But
think
this, go
when
ahead.
I make my plan to make a trip in my way to Lancaster City, I
Lancaster.
will I will definitely take a visit to the oldest working theater. As a theater lover and just passionate person, I definitely want to take a moment to do that. That sounds really cool.
It is very neat. It's right across from a favorite cafe of mine, Prince Street Cafe, I believe. Yeah, it's beautiful. Lancaster City and the county is just really, really beautiful. It's such a nice, welcoming community. The city has a major commitment to working with refugees. They're just such
Nice.
a caring city, and yeah, it always gives me a lot of pride to see things tied back to Lancaster. I remember one time when I was at college down in Washington, D.C., the grocery stores there had produce brought in from Lancaster, which I thought was really cool. Very
That's
proud to see
awesome.
that. Yeah. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me, a little bit about Lancaster. Serenius,
That's awesome.
why don't you introduce
Yeah.
where you're from?
Hello, everyone. So I am from used to be very small city. Now it's the third largest city in Pennsylvania. It called Allentown, Pennsylvania. It was founded by William Allen, hence Allentown, and a lot of the Allen focused buildings and also parks. So in streets, you'll see that a lot here. It was founded in 1762. There's a high school also called William Allen High School, so you get the Allen references in there, definitely. It has a lot of attractions actually, Allentown. We have a lot of people coming out of like different states from the West specifically to visit Allentown. So it's really cool to know that this little small town in not Middle Eastern, but Eastern Pennsylvania people from all over the world would travel to. It's actually home of the Liberty Bell Museum, which I didn't even know until I was digging into some history. And I found out that the Liberty Bell was hidden here for 10 months during the Revolutionary War. And I was like,
Wow.
what the heck? And it's so silly. It's silly to me now because, you think about the Revolutionary War and the British, but they were really trying to steal the Liberty Bell. They were trying to capture it, so they hid it here so that they wouldn't find it. And again, it sounds silly, but it was a real deal back then, which I thought that was cool. I learned that during well, Allentown is part of like the Lehigh Valley. They call it ABE. It's three different cities that are across in a close proximity to each other. So most people might also connect that with the Bethlehem Steel Stack. So back in the 1800s, Allentown was responsible for most of the employment of the city through the largest silk mill in the world that would produce silk and ship it to all around the country. So I think that was also a really cool thing to know about Allentown. My favorite thing is that we obviously have the Dorney Park, we have the Coca-Cola Park.
There's a
And
Coca-Cola park.
yes, it's where the Iron Pigs, the baseball league, plays here. It's actually really cool. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I went there and
wow.
yeah, I went to William Allen High School. So I literally raised here. Although I wasn't born here, but definitely did the whole school situation here. And I went there to perform with the dance team. And I went back again to do like they do food, they do fairs in the summer there as well. They do the Puerto Rican Day Parade there too. It's huge and it's awesome. So yes, Coca-Cola Park is the home of the Iron Pigs baseball team. And they also have the Da Vinci Center, which is literally inside Cedar Crest College, which I also went to.
Wow.
And yeah, inside like the campus, the Da Vinci Center is there. They just opened up another location downtown. So part of the attractions of Allentown. It's cute. I like it because it has literally a little bit of everything. Like I was at this I was at this rally. I was at the I was at the May Day rally downtown, and I heard someone say Allentown has a little bit of everything. You have the, community engagement, activism. You have like a big city part, and then you have like a very quiet part that has nothing to do with what the city. So it's a little bit of everything, and I feel like it's also a welcoming city, just like Lancaster. So that's really
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. They are very protective of people that come here and looking for, a place to start. Um, just to start over again. And it doesn't take much to show support. So like when the rally was happening downtown, you saw the cars stopping, even though like no, there weren't any people angry about the traffic jams. Like they were all taking out their phones and participating and honking their horn in support. And they're like, yeah, protect our rights, all this. It was really cool to see. Allentown.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah,
great.
I really grew to love it. I mean, I had no choice to come here, but I grew to love it a lot. It was awesome. Yeah, yeah.
I had no
And
idea that Allentown was the third biggest city. I didn't even know that
yeah,
Allentown was technically a city, to be honest. I thought Harrisburg was the third biggest city. So that
it
that surprised
honestly,
me.
being here from like I was here, let's say from like the 2000s. My family moved here. And I will say that growing up to see the differences, because I was definitely very engaged in my city. Like I literally canvassed, I did food, like just all the things that you
Hmm.
could imagine. I was outside participating and doing things just to be in community and just watching. So I think I read an article that said in the last year, Allentown's residency grew by 40,000 people. And I
Wow.
think yeah, I think that has to do with the reason why it's now the third largest city and growing. Okay. Everybody, like you see a lot of people coming over. So yeah, yeah. It's nice to know. There's a bunch of stuff about Allentown. Maybe I'll share later on, but those are some of the things that popped up that I feel like I wanted to share. Oh my gosh, there's also a band. Okay, I digress, but yeah, it's just really cool. They're one of the oldest civilian concert bands in the United States. So, and it's
Wow.
actually down the street. They perform at the Symphony Hall, which is down the street from William Allen High School, which I also went to and saw a lot of like beautiful. The Nutcracker performs there. It's just
I
it's
had
good
no
stuff.
idea a city could have like their own band. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
It's called the Allentown Band, just so people get it straight. Ah, cool stuff. So, which actually leads us to our next segment about really interesting things that happen in Pennsylvania, called What in the PA? This segment is where we talk about the stuff that caught our attention this week.
Yeah, so I'll start off, one piece of good news that came out of Harrisburg. Feels like not a lot of good news today. But there was a bill passed by the House to legalize recreational marijuana. It moved forward in committee and is sitting before the full House to vote on. But I think it's really great that we're finally taking a step forward to do this. I feel like it's so many states around us are finally, I feel like they've embraced legalization for
Hmm.
years at this point, and Pennsylvania has just been
Hmm.
lagging behind, just like we have with minimum wage. But
Mm,
so the bill would clear criminal records, really give people another chance to do things. So yeah, definitely something that, I'm keeping my eye on. I'm hopeful, you know,
yeah.
skeptical about how it'll do in the Republican Senate, but
Yeah. Hopefully it does push the needle forward uh with the just establishment of the marijuana topic, because I feel like it's also a sensitive topic for folks that have been incarcerated because of it. And hopefully there is, some sort of retribution when it comes to not just wiping the records, but also considering some sort of like just parole or cutting the sentences or forgiveness, or just even after the folks that have served their time to, be considered and not be, marked or prohibited from working in places because of this, since we are moving forward and we're like opening up the possibilities. And also, I definitely agree on other states already moving the needle forward, because I know that like the surrounding areas of Pennsylvania, they have like the most, I would say like the most border parts of other states have created the availability for people to purchase, obviously under licensing,
and
so that
even
it's
even
easier.
red states
Yeah,
like
yeah,
are
yeah.
embracing it. It's no longer
Hmm.
just like a red state, blue state thing. There are tons of red states that are way
Yeah.
ahead of Pennsylvania on this issue. So, it's just something that feels like, we just got to get with the times and, give people that second chance and move forward with things.
Agreed
Um,
1,000%.
yeah. There was another story I was looking at that's the opposite of moving forward, unfortunately, but right now, I'm actually based out in Pittsburgh, and I was reading the local news and I saw a story that due to Trump's spending cuts, that Pittsburgh and Allegheny County as a whole could potentially lose out on $25 million annually under Trump's proposed budget. He's
Oh my
trying to
gosh,
slash
yeah.
a 50-year-old grant program
Hmm.
called the
Hmm.
Community Development Block Grant. And the crazy thing was this was established under a Republican president, Gerald Ford, in the 70s.
Mm,
And it's just like, it's crazy because this grant funds things for like housing, infrastructure,
yeah.
economic development projects. And,
Mm,
we saw so much infrastructure spending under the last administration, thankfully. And I've seen like projects go up around Pittsburgh, and like now the idea that like we're just gonna shutter them, shut things down. Pittsburgh got to where it's at by building things, by
Yeah.
modernizing, you know? I mean, Pittsburgh has accomplished a lot in cleaning up water, air quality due to
Hmm.
grants
Hmm.
like these. And now the fact that like, he's trying to claw it back and leave us hanging is just it's ridiculous.
It's terrible to hear that people are honestly going to be left homeless because that's the first thing that popped into my head. I was reading similarly to just the effects of the Trump's budget proposal,
Hmm.
and there were headlines literally left and right, Section 8, and housing voucher programs, literally cutting it like in half of everything, which you hear half, but it's like this is honestly the entire program because it's been aimed at significantly from his first time to now. His first term, I feel like he's kind of like revamping everything that was not, was not passed back then, and now he's trying again. And I feel like it just leaves a lot of these programs that are actually very beneficial in the chopping block. And these people that are honestly just working Pennsylvanians. Anybody could be part of these programs. Um, their life could just be turned upside down.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I know so many people from Lancaster, who rely on, housing subsidies, rent assistance, all that stuff, and
mhm,
I feel like way too many people, especially Republicans, view those kinds of things as beneath them, or
mm,
like, using them makes you a bad person or lazy or something. But that's not true. I
no,
mean, anyone in this world of crises, anyone can lose their job at any given moment. And without a job, it's getting impossible to afford, the rising housing cost, rent, mortgage, all that stuff. And so anyone can rely on these at any moment, and that's really what we need to be telling people is,
hmm, hmm.
we shouldn't be looking down on these people. A safety net is there for everyone, right? That's the point of the
Exactly,
safety net,
exactly,
you know.
exactly.
I mean, when you're on a roller coaster at Hershey Park and you're going down the hill and you see the net below you, you're hoping you obviously stay inside the roller coaster, but like if your shoe flies off,
Oh
so
my
you wouldn't
gosh.
complain about the safety net then. And so it's kind
Right.
of the same deal here. So, it's really important that we protect these programs and, just
Definitely.
expand them for everyone.
Definitely. And just, on top of that, you have the tariffs, you have the funding freezes that have been happening, that have been, that had happened already, and how our governor fought to unfreeze those funds so that our programs continue. And, even if they were unfrozen and were accessible due to that, there's still kind of like this gray area where people had to, in programs and in jobs and just family businesses that were impacted by just the freeze. So you have all of this stuff, and you have, people are trying to cope. And like you said, anyone can lose their job. Anyone can struggle financially, regardless if they don't lose their job because of these tariffs, because of these freezes that hiccup the programs that they might use on their daily lives. Daycare alone for people with children is
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's a weekly ridiculous expense. And I feel like people are kind of like suffocating with all these things being thrown at them at the same time. And to mention, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I feel like it's a good time to also speak to the human in people that are out there listening and watching all of these things that, for the sake of our mental health, we need to really focus on what's important and how to retain these programs and protect these programs from further on being attacked and or being slashed or cut. And as a community, we need to come together and take action to protect those safety nets because anyone can be a victim of losing their job. It could literally happen to anyone. And I feel like that whole it's beneath me, it's, don't say stuff, it's gonna come around and bite you. So, you know,
Exactly. We
yeah,
we got to
yeah.
look out for our neighbors. And speaking
Hmm.
of neighbors, our next segment is Meet a Neighbor, where we like to spotlight local heroes, people that work in the community across Pennsylvania. So, Renice, why don't you give us a quick little rundown on your Meet a Neighbor story from this past week?
Yeah, yeah. So earlier this week, I mentioned that I was at a couple of rallies, but earlier this week, I wasn't able to make a rally, but I was working on a small little project. And there was this rally regarding minimum wage at the Capitol building.
We are standing in solidarity because it's long overdue that we raise the minimum wage. Yeah. When we don't raise the wage, we're saying keep on working and stay in poverty. Yeah. That is sickening and it's not right.
And what moved me the most was the fact that, a minimum wage bill has been previously passed and it's gotten lost in the Senate. But the fact that the states around Pennsylvania have already moved forward with just bumping up the minimum wage for their state and continue to do that even through 2025. At the end of 25, they'll see another increase, and they keep doing that. It's a way to also call out our, representatives to do what they have to do to pass these bills and not only pass to increase the minimum wage, but also make sure that there's a space for leveling out these increases on tariffs and inflation. And how does that impact the fluctuation of not just holding us at 15, but doing what neighboring states do and continue to adjust based on that, and also giving cities the freedom to do what's best for their workforce and the different types of businesses that are around, because I know that a lot of small businesses feel that they would like some representation when it comes to, like, small businesses may or may not have the capability to do that increase, but they could also manage the way that they are going to increase it. So, like, just giving them more of an opportunity to do what's best for their business within that whole increasing the minimum wage. So everyone kind of like gets an opportunity there. So
Well, and
I think that was,
everyone
yeah, yeah,
benefits from it.
exactly, exactly.
Because like when at I worked minimum wage jobs when I was in school in
Mm,
DC. And then when I would come back from the summer, I would be making less at a place where
mm,
I had been working for years compared
yeah.
to like the 15 minimum I was able to get in DC. And I had friends
Hmm.
who never left the state, and they were like, "Oh, like all the starting jobs around here are only like $9 or $10, you know?" And
Too
it's
lucky.
ridiculous. Like it shortchanges us, it shortchanges small
Hmm.
business owners.
Hmm. Hmm.
The only people it benefits is like the really wealthy who can
Right.
keep labor cheap, and I mean, at this point, even 15 should honestly be raised, right? With
Exactly.
inflation, like at this point where,
Exactly.
at this point, fight for 15, we gotta jack that up,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, but
definitely agree.
it's awesome to hear that, there were a lot of people gathered out
Oh yeah, it
at
was
the
beautiful to see just the support of everyone being around, not afraid to come out and say something and fight for what they deserve. Again, the minimum wage hasn't been raised in Pennsylvania in like 16 years, okay? Yet inflation, tariffs, just the cost of living
Mhm.
has definitely increased. So, like you said, even 15 right now is kind of like mid.
Yeah, it should have been 15,
Yeah,
10 years ago. We're a bit
right.
behind on that.
Right,
Um,
especially with other states also already bumping that, being at what,
yeah.
16, 17? Come on
Even
now.
West Virginia, the super Republican state. has a higher minimum wage than us, so it's just no excuses.
Yeah.
But it's great to hear. We're running a bit short on time, so I'll take us into our final section for the PA op quiz, brought to us from Spotlight PA. Shout out to them. So, because of time, we'll only do a couple questions.
Let's do it.
But the first one is pretty excited about this first one.
I'm
It's
nervous.
which
What?
member of the Philadelphia Eagles skipped the team's visit to the White House to celebrate their Super Bowl win?
Ooh, I'll take.
And
Ooh,
the options are A, Saquon Barkley, B, Cooper DeJean, C, Jalen Hurts, or D, Dallas Goedert.
it's definitely C.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, yeah.
Love to see it.
I think he got a lot of like praise on on all social media platforms, I will say. That's how I know.
Yeah, and he should.
Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Education says the University of Pennsylvania is in violation of which federal civil rights law for allowing transgender students to compete on its women's sports teams. So this is a bit legalistic, but A, Title
Yeah.
One, B, Title Five, C, Title Eight, or D, Title Nine.
Do we
I
know
think
what these
it's
titles are?
no, but I'm pretty sure it might be Title Nine, just because
Title
that's the
nine.
one I'm most familiar with.
That's true.
Um, because it has a lot to do with like
It,
um harassment suits at
mm,
schools and colleges. My college
mm.
had a Title IX office, stuff like that. So that's
Oh,
my guess.
yeah. I'll trust your gut. Let's
Okay.
go with it.
Oh, we were right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Um, and one final question to end the quiz. Wildfires burned thousands of acres in this Cumberland County state forest in the past week, prompting large-scale containment efforts, evacuation advisories, and air quality alerts along the I-81 corridor. And the options are Susquehannock State Forest, B, the McCall State Forest, C, the
Hmm.
Moshannon State Forest, or the D, the Corn Planter State Forest. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea.
Yeah, same. Um,
Maybe the Susquehannock, but
that's what I
that's
thought
that's
too,
the
but
only
it's
one
too.
I've heard of, which is
Yeah,
why.
same. Same.
All right, well,
Uh,
it was not the Susquehannock.
Pooh. Oh yeah, it's
It-
the B.
yeah, the McCall State Forest. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that just shows, I'm glad that we have a capable state government that's able to get out there and contain things, you
agreed.
know.
That
Hate
was a
to
cool
end
quiz.
on, yeah. I mean, thanks again to the folks at Spotlight PA for putting that together. Definitely a few things that I obviously need to brush up on. And,
Oh, definitely.
I read the news and a few of them even had me second guessing.
Yeah,
So,
the state park one definitely had me.
yeah, I definitely need to read up more about Pennsylvania state parks.
Yeah, so
Um,
we can bring that also to another segment, just talk about it, see what people are dropping in the chat, given that this is our first podcast episode.
yeah, and that's actually all for our very first episode. Um,
Awesome.
Thanks everybody for joining us on our first episode. My name is Chandler.
And my name is Reinys, and this is All About PA Podcast. We hope to see you on our next podcast episode.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and TikTok at All About PA to keep up with all things Pennsylvania and to see when we drop our next episode. Thanks everybody.
We'll be back soon. Bye.